much of a difference, and we saw that in the next fight we're going to move into. Bakole. Bakole was 200. He came in at 6'6", 284.5. Up against, as we mentioned, right, Jared Anderson. Anderson has been pegged as the next big thing in the heavyweight division, which, again, as we mentioned in the conversation before, was at least a prospect that could be hyped up and looked forward to. That being said, he entered with a 17-0 record, 15 knockouts, started out strong, and then met a uppercut from a gargantuan. This dude is like, I mean, he looked like Balrog from like Street Fighter. Like,
I'm gonna tell you who he looked like. I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna tell you who he looked like.
Okay, all right. Well, do you want to start us off then, or do you want to
start with Ernest? Go ahead and start with Ernest.
Oh man, I was waiting for it. So yeah, man. Listen, I'm one of 3 people in our league that picked Bakole by KO. I picked the KO based off, I do film studies, so I picked the KO based off of the previous fight that I saw with Jared Anderson and Martin. And I saw that Martin was able to stun Jared, and Jared, he's not the holding type. He's a type to bite down on it. That's an ego thing. Another thing that I noticed is that Jared doesn't listen to the instructions in his corner. We've seen a couple of fighters that have come from the top rank system kind of be, a bit combative with their trainers, which is a bad look. You're a team. You guys are supposed to listen to what your trainers tell you. They know a bit more. They see things that maybe you can't see. So Bakole, how do we describe him? I mean, my man's wearing a skirt with no drawers on under it. He's commando.
Oh my goodness!
He out here commando, and with the bag in the pipe, bro. Yo, he was piping my man. Listen, a big dude like that with fast hands, he's like, listen, I'm gonna absorb what he got. I'm gonna punch when he punches. I can take what he got, but he can't take what I got. He said it. He said, listen, it's different up here. And he was right about that. The dude was avoided. And those of us who study the sport, we realized that Michael Hunter is a supremely talented guy who went the rounds with Usyk, moved up to heavyweight. He ended up stopping Bakole, right?
Folks, avoid Michael Hunter.
Bakole had a shoulder injury. He was unable to defend himself properly when that happened. So, if you didn't know that, then you probably picking Anderson for the smoke. So, honestly, man, listen, they had a hidden weapon. They brought my man over here with the bagpipes, and he did the thing on him.
All right, Skywalker. Oh man, he said.
I'm gonna get to the fight, man. You're talking about the skirt that he was wearing. But,
right? Yeah. That was great.
Yeah, I think Big Baby, man, after taking that knockdown in the first round, he really never recovered from that shit. He has heart, man. He showed a lot of heart. He was in there for another 4 more rounds with Bakole, and the fifth round, man, he scored the 2 more, the knockdown, then the knockout, and that kind of, like you said, it killed our hope for American heavyweight boxing. You know what I'm saying? He was our hope. You know what I'm saying? So I hope he can bounce back, bro. Actually, man, because he was the best representative for America in the heavyweight division. So kind of rooting for him. That's about it, man.
I mean, as we mentioned earlier, right? One loss is not all of it, and even Turkey, Al-Sheikh came up to him afterwards and was like, "Hey, it's one loss. Get back in the lab, cook it up again, get back out there and show that you are. We're going to keep featuring you here on these shows." So he has a spot to fight in going forward. He just needs to get himself back right. Josh, your thoughts?
Real quick, shout out to my fam that dropped by. My mom even dropped in here. Man, Mouse, man, Moo. What up, fam? Appreciate y'all. But yeah, so here's the situation. Martin Bakole, he's a guy that the casual boxing fan is not going to know about. That being said, he seems to be the real deal. He knocked off prospect out of France, Tony Yoka. Yoka was expected to do some things in the sport Martin Bakole went over there, got the job done. He was a bit more battle tested than Jared Anderson, maybe even by a little bit more than just a bit. And I think that a lot of people were basing things off of how Jared Anderson has looked thus far against a lower tier of competition. But I guess you can say that the Charles Martin fight gave us a glimpse of how he might operate in there with a higher level opponent. And Charles Martin, of course, is not someone to write home about, but he was a world champion, however it may be that he ended up winning the championship. Now, I will say that Jared Anderson did show a great deal of heart. He landed a ton of good shots on Martin Bakole, but Martin Bakole was able to eat those shots. And, the mental came into it. You're Jared Anderson. You're sitting there hitting him with everything, and this guy is still just coming forward. That's got to play on your psyche somewhat. I think that's what may have ultimately got to him. And eventually, you can throw in the exhaustion piece, all of that, but you're in a 12-round fight. You're in there with this massive dude who's not going anywhere. You've hit him with your best shots, and he's still marching forward. And if you look at it, and they were talking about it on the broadcast, even Bakole, for some of those punches, it didn't seem that he was really putting a ton into him. He was doing arm punches for the most part in some of those. Just imagine if he sat down on some of those punches in a more definitive manner. And I think that's something that Jared realized and had to cope with. And ultimately, he paid the price for what he was dealing with there. Now, as mentioned, it's not the end of the road for Jared, but as far as Bakole, I think it was kind of a star-making performance for him because people are going to know about him now. There's talk of him potentially taking on Zhang Jilei, the Chinese heavyweight, in what could be a blockbuster-type fireworks fight. Ooh. Two big dudes going at it. And I'm all for it. Sign me up for that particular contest right there. But, coming into this fight, I lean slightly towards Jared Anderson, but a lot of that was just kind of gut feeling, I guess you can say, and a little bit of potential. But got to give it to Papi Choon Yayo. He was with Bakole there from the start, and I will say that tends to pay off when you think about sort of that experience at that top level and what one is able to do. And we had a podcast a little bit earlier in the week. One of the things that I've always not liked about Jared Anderson is his tendency to kind of just back up from shots as opposed to stepping to the side, things of that nature. And you could see when he was doing that, that's how he was getting caught. And that's what kind of failed him against Charles Martin as well, just kind of leaning back from shots. And that ultimately came back to bite him. So it seems that he knows what he was doing wrong and he could get away with it at a certain level. But hey, you're in there with the big boys. You took this fight and you see what happened right there. And the crazy thing is he was ranked higher than Martin Bakole. But if you look from a resume perspective, I think that Bakole was more battle tested than Jared Anderson. Now, the only thing Jared Anderson had really was the fact that Charles Martin was a former world champion. But that being said, sometimes that can be deceiving right there. And I think that Martin Bakole is someone to watch regardless of the situation. And sometimes that hunger is just different. Congolese right there. I mean, the struggle, a lot of the boxers come from a struggle. That Congolese struggle, that's a little bit different than a Ohio struggle. You know what I'm saying? So you got a little bit something different in you. You know what I'm saying? So that's my 2 cents on it.
And the crazy part about it is, as you mentioned,
by the way, he didn't have a full training camp for that fight.
Crazy.
Wow.
That's wow.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Josh, he was not barely, but when he was punching, you could see he was not even going full bore into those punches, and he was still just like these, just fists are just like tree trunks, just like damaging the body and the psyche and the face of Joshua. And it's scary because, as you mentioned, he still has this this grown man still has a lot of potential in front of him. And it's kind of like when Rocky was going against Drago and was like trying to punch him, he just couldn't do anything. It's like, anyways, but crazy fight. But Bakole proved he is, as was said here, the real deal. Clubber D, round us out on this topic, my friend.
Man, first I'm gonna scroll back up to my brother's comment because it was hilarious. We'll go right there. Shout out to my brother and mother.
It's not grainy.
It was pretty funny. It was making funny reception. But shout out to my mom and brother that were in town recently. Now they're back in their respective places, Louisiana and Florida. So I'll get to rocking and rolling.
Love you, Mr.
First off, if you guys saw Jared Anderson doing the Harlem Shake and dancing and stuff like that when they were at the press conference, kind of like it's whatever. The Bakole got that stone cold like look on his face, like, nah, we're gonna fight. I don't need you singing and dancing. You know what I'm saying? And what I was gonna say was when Bakole came out, when he was ready to fight, I swear on everything, I thought that was Kamala fighting a jobber on Saturday morning WWF Superstars. Like,
Come on. The Ugandan
all he needed was a paint on his face.
I thought you were gonna say junkyard dog, but Kamala.
I thought that was Kamala. You know what I'm saying? The way he beat Jared Anderson. You 24 years old. I said this on you and Boz were on. I think it was you and Boz, Josh. Y'all were on, and
Boxing
I was like, he gave me Victor Ortiz vibe. You know what I'm saying? Not too long ago when he was like, boxing is not something I really want to do. I can kind of do whatever. Then he had the speeding charge or whatever charges he had. So I feel like when you're 24 and your head's not all the way in the game, this is gonna happen. Especially like you guys mentioned, he doesn't listen to his corner. Shakur Stevenson, your granddad's telling you something. You're like, no. Okay, you know it all. Well, then why are you still fighting? Why have you knocked him out yet? Since you Mr. Know It All. All right, so you gotta listen to your corner. And that's the thing. Like Jared Anderson, he's one of those younger guys. He can bounce back. Let's not do the Mayweather effect where you got to be undefeated. Everybody can lose. But this is a point where, you know what? Let me correct myself. All right. I took an L. I should have trained differently. I should have listened to my coaches. Let me go back to the drawing board. But I remember I thought that Anderson was going to win this fight the night before we did the show, Omar, and then the next day, Josh and Ernest had me on, and we interviewed the Fly. Shout out to him for winning his fight, Jeffrey. Jeffrey Yu, right?
Jeffrey Yu.
The man, the Fly man, shout out to him. He won this fight on Saturday night up here in DC. But I saw Bakole stuff in between. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Bakole might have a chance of knocking this dude out. So, Bacole's a force to reckon with. I would love to see him fight Yang. But Anderson, back to his drawing board. He can bounce back.
Yeah, hey, Clubber, remember I called that Clarissa knockout too, didn't I? What I tell you?
You sure did.
Man.
You sure did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Clubber,
Yeah,
Clubber D, you're stupid. Kamala.
He didn't look like Kamala. I thought it was Kamala with the skirt. I thought, man, all I need is the move on you.
Giant.
You